மறக்காம சர்ப்ரைஸ் பண்ணுங்க. Thank you.
The general impression in the early part of 2011 is that the modern variation where black takes on e5 and plays c6 is a perfectly valid and respectable response. And I've just chosen the very latest game here. It comes from a tournament played in Dallas in March 2011 between Ray Robson and Alexandra Ramirez. And it features one of White's most challenging moves against c6. That's 6 bishop e2. Challenging in the sense that White doesn't play for anything than the slight edge. And this is probably the best way to play against the Alekhine. Well, in this particular game, Ramirez played our thematic move knight d7. This is what we plan to do once we play c6. But there's nothing wrong either with the interesting move bishop f5 in this position. If you are not afraid of 7g4, then you should definitely play this move. There was a game, Anand versus Carlson, where White played g4 and then played very ambitious c4, hoping to drive black back. But after the thematic knight d7, black got a very good game. Basically, if White exchanges on d7, then the move g4 looks out of place, and therefore Anand retreated, whereupon black went back into one of the g6 lines, where the move g4 looked rather weakening rather than, strengthening any white attack. So after bishop e3 castles, queen d2, Carlson played the excellent move here, b5, sacrificing the pawn for squares and the initiative. And Anand has to take this pawn. And after bishop d5 and rook c8, black has a very good game for the pawn. After bishop f5 then, White can be more conventional and castle. But once again, I think knight d7 just gives black a very comfortable game. So you need not play, as Ramirez does, with knight d7 straight away. You could play bishop f5, but there's nothing wrong with knight d7 either, as we will see. Robson played c4, trying to get something out of the opening, and black took on e5. I mean, that's what he's leading up to. Why not do it? The retreat, knight c7, looks a little bit uncomfortable to me, but that was played in another Ramirez game against Boykov in Richardson 2011, and there, after knight f3, black played g6. This is a slightly more complex situation. I think I favour knight takes e5 as played in the game because black's got slightly less space, therefore it makes sense to exchange. And it's my impression that in this game, Boykov versus Ramirez, White got slightly the better of things, even though black was able to put his knight on d6, bishop f1. This looks like not a solid plus equals as such, because black will always have counterplay in these complicated situations, but just leading to a complicated game where perhaps White has slightly the better of things. Again, it's a very much a question of taste, and Ramirez went on to draw this game in 57 complicated moves. But back at Robson-Ramirez, black simplified. White took on d5, and black played knight g6. Now, obviously, Ramirez has gone into this position in the full knowledge that White can fracture his queenside pawns. However, black also has a target, the isolated white queen pawn on d4. So it's really a question of whether the weakness on c6 counterbalances the weakness on d4. Which of the weaknesses is more significant? Well, White is completely unable to make anything of his attack on c6 here. Robson develops normally, as does black. Simple and effective development. And now White plays bishop e3. Rook b8, intending to operate on the b file. White played rook e1. And now a very combative move by Ramirez. Pawn up to f5. Well, this is a very interesting attempt to make something of the position. It looks extremely sharp. If black had wanted a simpler approach, then I can recommend c5 as a possible improvement. This puts the question to White's game, and if White takes on c5, we take on f3 and then take on b2. Okay, White's got this passed pawn on c5, but how strong is it? I mean, it looks as though it could be weak to me. I'm not sure why Ramirez didn't go in for this, apart from the desire to complicate the game at all costs. So he goes f5, White goes queen e2, and now black presses on with f4. Robson's unwilling to break up his kingside pawn, so he retreats with bishop d2, but that leaves the d pawn on pre, and that's the whole point of black's play. Rook a d1 was answered by c5, and there were trades on b7. White played bishop c1, queen f6, and now I think we can see that the game is simplifying down. Black didn't have the worst of things. After queen takes e6, rook takes e6, bishop f6, g takes f4, and then we go bishop takes c3, b takes c3. Black took on f4, Robson captured and offered a draw. I think it's a fair result. The game looks very, very equal, which of course is theoretically satisfactory. So just to summarise, I think c6 remains a good response to the modern variation, and white players the world over are having a hard job cracking this particular nut.
மறக்காம சர்ப்ரைஸ் பண்ணுங்க. தேங்க்யூ.